welcome all of you to the beginning of our series on aging well in Teton Valley. This is a series that we've talked about for a number of months. We've heard from you all wanting to have something like this, and so clearly, based on the response and the amount of people that are here, this is something that you want to hear more about. So this is something that we are going to be doing quarterly, so watch your calendars for that. I want to thank all of our panelists that are here with us to share their expertise with all of you, and also a big thanks to Stacy, our operations director, who helped put this together. So thank you all, and we're on.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you all being out here for this very important topic and a discussion that we all are going to have together. Kicking it off with this panel, I'll let Carol Taylor, our social worker, gerontology specialist, who has also helped me build this panel and the topics that we'll cover tonight, and then open it up to a question and answer session at the end for tonight. So we will have the panelists introduce themselves, and thank you very much, everyone, for being here, both our audience and our panelists, very much. Carol Taylor. We're going to start off with an introduction.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Bennett. I'm a physical therapist, and I work at Teton Valley Health in the hospital setting. So if you ever end up there with a total knee replacement or something, you get to see me. And more to come. Yeah, more to come.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyrell Arnold. I'm the director over the Area Agency on Aging, based out of Idaho Falls. So, as the Area Agency on Aging, we cover kind of the 9 northeast counties in Idaho. And I must say, throughout all my travels, you guys have the gem. As I come over it was a beautiful drive. So I come up over the mountain, it was a little foggy over in Swan Valley, and I come up and the sun was shining beautifully over the valley. I thought,
Eureka!
I thought, who would ever leave this place?
Exactly.
Or let anybody in.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. You'll hear from everyone a little bit later. And
my name is Lauren Grell. I'm a speech language pathologist at Teton Valley Health. I worked in the hospital and also in our outpatient clinic.
My name is Gabrielle Seppert. I'm also a speech language pathologist, and I work with Lauren in the outpatient and the acute care in the hospital.
great. Thank you. Welcome. This is so wonderful. I said to the gals when they first came in, I feel like I am among my tribe now. Those of us who work in aging are a unique group of folks. It's not for everyone, but for those of us that choose this path, our dedication is limitless. So, my name is Carol Taylor. I'm a geriatric social worker and have been so, I used to say since last century because that's still true, but I think 42 or 43 years. Elder care is my passion, and working especially with those with dementia and brain change, and helping them, and a lot of family coaching and education and understanding about what's happening with their loved one's brain and what some of the behaviors may mean. It's a bit of a treasure hunt. I think that's why I really enjoy trying to figure out, as Dr. Freud taught us, all behavior has meaning. And I believe as a geriatric professional, it's my duty to seek the meaning behind the behavior. It's not a fire alarm, it's just a phone. Okay, great. I hail from Chapin. How many know where Chapin is?
We do.
Yeah, we do. I actually, my husband and I moved over here in 1989. I'd lived in Jackson a long time prior to that. And then we saw the light and came over the hill. And this year, we live in the Chapin Church, is what I'm trying to say. And this year, she turns 100. The church was built in 1925. Isn't that something else? So, we'll sing happy birthday to her later if people start nodding off. So, I want to see who's here tonight. How many, hi Deb, how many of you are in your 40s? Show of hands. Okay. 50s? Good. 60s? Great. 70s? Nice. 80s? 90s? Beautiful. Anyone 100? Okay. We'll aim to get there together. Look at the diverse age groups that are in the room tonight. And if I were to ask each one of you individually, if we had the time, what is it that drew you to being a part of this tonight? My guess is that there would be a lot of comments about understanding more about the brain, understanding more about memory, understanding more about how I can stave off memory loss or some of the aspects of aging. So, do you have concerns about your aging brain? Yes. Somebody holler out one thing that you're concerned about. Memory, okay. Something else that you're concerned about.
Physical.
I'm sorry?
Physical.
Oh, okay, sorry, okay, great. Anything else that comes to mind?
Depression?
Oh, boy, absolutely. God bless you. Depression. I'm not gonna go down this path too far, but I do wanna let you know that one of the things that I've learned in many years of working with elders, particularly those with dementia, is very often depression is not evaluated by healthcare practitioners. And if you were to look at what the psychologists and mental health people use as their Bible, the DSM-5, it's a manual of all the diagnoses in the whole world. But if you were to turn to the page with dementia and looked at the symptoms, and then the page with depression and looked at the symptoms, over 60% are the same. And someday when we have a little more time, I would love to delve into that a little bit more, because it's very easy to be labeled with dementia or brain change or something, but what doesn't always happen is ruling out what else might be going on, and that's so vitally important. Here's a quick true or false, okay? And you're welcome to raise your hand or shout out. You can do whatever you want here. True or false? We are born with all our brain cells. They do not increase during our lifetime.
False.
False. Memory loss happens with normal aging.
True.
We'll circle back on that. It depends on the degree of the loss, how persistent it is, how significant it is in affecting your daily life and affecting your sense of safety awareness, judgment, those kinds of things. By and large, memory loss is not a part of normal aging. Now, I'll give you some stats in just a few minutes that will sound like I'm contradicting that, but it's not part of normal aging. Our ability to learn new skills is gone by age 70. False, right on. So, and we can learn our entire lives. And what may happen is as we age, it may take us a little bit longer to lay down new information. But once that is laid down, it's as retrievable to an 80-year-old with normal brain as it is to a 30-year-old. So it's a lot of mythology that goes on about learning. There are many lifestyle habits that influence brain health. True. Many 80-year-olds perform just as well as those in their 30s on memory assessments. True. As we age, I gave you this one. As we age, it takes longer to lay down new memories, and it does take longer, but it's not impossible. We also know that, I heard the rousing chorus here, I believe, my table mates, that no, we're not born with all the brain cells we'll ever have, and we know that into old age, it's still possible to create new neural pathways in the brain. And I'm going to talk for just a second about how we can set ourselves up to do that. As we age, it takes longer to process information. Well, not you, but the rest of us, I'm talking about. For many at age 80, most brains decrease in weight and blood flow decreases. Taste buds diminish, as does cardiac output and grip strength. Yeah, see, now he's showing off. Okay, great, good. So what can we do? What can we do about that? We don't just sit around and wait for it to happen, right? There's a lot of things that we can do to enhance our brain health at any point in our lives, at any age. Certainly, as with many things, it's better to start a little bit earlier, but it doesn't mean that, you know, if you left 80 in the dust, it doesn't mean you can't pick up some of these things now. So, the first is to assess your lifestyle. We talked about the lifestyle changes. Assess your lifestyle. Manage chronic diseases. If you have heart disease or diabetes or pulmonary issues, manage those with your healthcare provider as best you can. There's many people that have high blood pressure and they don't manage it, or they start to manage it and then they don't want to take the pills anymore and blah, blah, blah. And those are the people that are really queued up for vascular dementia. There's all kinds of different dementias. We won't get into that tonight, but it matters that you manage your chronic diseases. Eat heart healthy food. If it's good for your heart, it's good for your noggin. Easy thing to remember. So many people talk about the Mediterranean diet. Have you heard of it? Yeah, okay. So generally, that means fresh fruits and vegetables, limited cholesterol-heavy foods, fish and other foods with omega-3, olive oil, dairy products, whole grains, nuts, no processed foods or limited processed foods. So that's second, manage chronic diseases. That's the second one. And eat a healthy, nutritious diet. A little tip that I learned many years ago, and I just love it because it's so easy. When you go to the grocery store and you're gonna get some cabbage, and there's the light green cabbage and then there's the purple cabbage. What these researchers, these brain research people are incredible, but what they've told us is the darker the pigmentation in fruits and vegetables, the higher the antioxidant properties. Now, we want things to be antioxidant. We don't want things forming in our brains. And so if we can move away from things that impair acetylcholine conduction and those kinds of things, but darker pigments, isn't that simple? That's easy to pack around with you too. So we all want to know why the craze is on for blueberries, as all these years it has been, but darker pigments. Green grapes or dark red grapes? Take the dark red. And it's just little tiny changes we can make with awareness when we are working on our brain health. Move, stay physically active. And move doesn't mean go into training to scale the North Face. That's not really what I'm talking about. But move. And it is, it's recommended, and this changes pretty much every week, but it's generally recommended that people exercise, move, stretch 20 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And what I found so fascinating is in the last probably 5 years, now the researchers and the scientists are saying, and that doesn't have to be in one 20-minute block. Isn't that something? For it to benefit your brain. Now, I mean, if we're talking about aerobics, that would be a different thing, but 20 minutes a day. The fourth thing, engage with others. Why is that important? Social connection. I work with so many elders that live alone, and if they do not engage in activities in the community, in their church, in social groups, they can begin to lose the skill of conversation. That makes sense, doesn't it? Not practicing. Now, I practice all the time with my gato, but he's a good listener, he won't respond though. So I only get part of the benefit. But the benefit of social engagement, it's stimulating for our brains, and it sometimes can help take us out of ourselves a little bit. That's not a bad place to be. And the last one is learn something new. This is phenomenal. I've known people that at age 80, 81, and they speak 3 languages, but they decided that they wanted to learn another language. And at 81, and they did it. And they can speak now fluently and understand 4 different languages. I just, I struggle with, CC. I mean, I'm sort of pathetic, but that's a wonderful thing to do, something new for your brain. Or pick up a musical instrument. People say to me, I do crossword puzzles all the time, and I say, that's great doing crossword puzzles. Branch out a tiny bit more and do something a little bit different. One of the things I've been suggesting to a lot of people with very mild dementia is jigsaw puzzles, because it uses your brain, it uses your eyes, and there's a tactile or kinesthetic part to it as well, touch. And the more sensory involvement we have in an experience, the more likely we are to recall it, because we're hit at different places from a sensory standpoint. So, that's the end of my spiel. 1 minute too long. Well, that's not bad for me. Might be a personal best, I think, actually. With that, I am going to, after we have our quick roundtable, I will be asking you a few questions. And the questions will have to do with which of the topics that you hear about tonight would you like to hear more about? And that's going to help us formulate subsequent gatherings like this, because we want to, tonight's just sort of a sampler platter, just to let you know what's in the valley, and there's always more than we think there is, but we're gathering us together tonight to do a little demo for you. So I am turning the time over now to dear Margaret, physical therapist extraordinaire. Physical therapists are amazing human beings. OTs are extraordinary human beings because they see the world totally different than we do. We don't have an OT with us tonight. Speech and language pathologists, these two, have so many skills and clinical skills, and the range of what they do is much broader than most people know. So you'll leave tonight more informed. Great. Margaret.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for letting me be part of this, and I'm really looking forward to just giving you guys some education and some information. So physical activity, we all know it's really important for our cardiovascular health and our pulmonary health, but it really does affect the brain as well. When we exercise, we're increasing blood flow, and as Carol mentioned, one of the things that happens as we age is that our brains do actually shrink in size. And one reason for that is because we have lack of blood flow to the brain. So if we're able to increase our blood flow naturally through exercise, so we're able to get more oxygen into the brain, and we're able to create some more pathways. Another great thing about physical activity, and specifically to brain health, is that as we exercise, we actually are increasing the number of enzymes that create new pathways and also strengthen the pathways that are already existing. So the brain is incredibly malleable and it can adapt to anything, and we see it all the time. And it's not finite, as if a nerve, a peripheral nerve, a nerve that leaves the brain, you know, something that goes to your fingers, if you have nerve damage in your fingers, that's probably not gonna come back, and if it is, it's gonna take a very, very, very long time. Whereas in the brain, we can see changes very quickly. And one of the great ways to increase that, not only increasing the strength of the neurons that you currently have, but also increasing the number of neurons, is by exercise. The two highest, the research that I was looking at was indicating that Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's are the two highest rates of neurodegenerative diseases that come later in life. And physical activity can actually decrease your dementia by about 45% if you start exercising midlife. So that's in your 40s. If you start exercising in your 40s and you continue that exercise, you could see a decrease in your dementia risk by 40%. That also, for Parkinson's, it's about 20%. Now, there's only a handful of us that are in our 40s. That doesn't mean that that's out the window. You could start doing an exercise program in your 80s and have all of the benefits that you would have as if you started in your 40s. So get out there and start moving the best you can. What is the best exercise to stop these types of neurodegenerative diseases? Whichever one you're going to do consistently. That's the best one to do. So find something you enjoy and do it. And get out there and do it every day, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Speak up a little bit. Then not only are you looking for something that you enjoy, but one of the research shows that one of the best ways to increase just physical health and balance and brain health is to be a part of a program like Fit and Fall Proof that you have here. Fit and Fall Proof, they have the best evidence to show that those types of community exercise events are hitting all of the major important things that Carol mentioned. We have that community group, we're meeting people, you're learning new skills, you're working on balance, you have your weight training 2 to 3 times a week, you're getting that exercise, and you're creating community. So finding that exercise that you really enjoy, doing it, and if you're not really sure about an exercise that you'd like, look into the programs that they have here at the Senior Center, because there's a different exercise program every single day. Fit and Fall Proof is fantastic, because they also have Tai Chi, and then there's the drumming exercise as well. And yoga. All of those are fantastic. Let's see, what else? Oh, and then this is just the last piece here. Physical activity. Not only does it really change all of the way that your brain is working, we all feel that euphoric feeling after we've exercised. So even when you're, oh, I don't want to go, but the minute you start, 9 times out of 10, you're, oh, I'm really happy that I started doing this. And then once it's over, it's, oh, I'm really happy that I finished that. And that's because it is affecting your mood. Exercise affects your mood. It can help your sleep and depression, and also can help with insulin resistance. So all really important things to just promote physical activity, trying to get out there 20, 40 minutes a day, moderate to vigorous exercise. If you're more of a vigorous exercise person, you can cut that down to about 20 to 30 minutes. But if you're more of the moderate walker, and when we say moderate, you're going for a walk, you're able to maintain a conversation but couldn't sing. That would be about a moderate exercise. And if you can do that for about 20 to 40 minutes every day, you'll really see a difference and be able to improve the brain health that you currently have.
Beautiful. I feel like I've just listened to a motivational speaker. Wow. I'm gonna start here at YouTube. Okay, split.
So I thought maybe to tonight I start talking about what speech-language pathologists do. Carol kind of touched on the fact that we have a broad spectrum within our scope, and part of it has to do with pediatrics, but a lot of it has to do with adults. And it spans from cognitive function to language, speech, voice, and respiration. All of those are part of what we do in order to support individuals either after a stroke or a neural event or a neurodegenerative disease. All of those you would see a speech-language pathologist for. One that I've forgotten is swallow. So we also work with individuals who have swallow impairments. So with that said, I'm gonna just kind of start talking about what we do regarding aging and the brain. So Carol has already spoken to you about a broad spectrum of the things that we would like to address, or would have addressed if she hadn't already mentioned it. But I wanted to kind of start with normal aging versus dementia. So normal aging, it declines is subtle, mostly affecting thinking speed and attention. While abnormal aging, you will see deficits that range from rapid forgetting, difficulty navigating, solving common problems, expressing oneself, having word finding difficulties, all of those kind of, and there's more, but those are kind of the key ones. And with that said, there's also motor changes that could result in excessive tripping or balance difficulties. So those are the kind of key things to look out for. But the symptoms will vary from person to person. There is not just one trajectory of aging. So education, engagement, health. Carol touched on the fact that cardiovascular health or chronic diseases will impact how one ages. So now, I guess we'd like to talk about what are some of the symptoms of aging, or what to watch for in regards to dementia setting in, or dementia.
So some things to watch out for would be getting lost in familiar places, odd or inappropriate behaviors, forgetfulness of recent events, repeated falls or loss of balance, repetitive questioning, personality changes, declining in your planning and organization skills ability, changes in diet or eating habits, changes in hygiene, feeling apathetic overall, and then changes in language abilities or comprehension of language as well. And that may include things like having difficulty finding words. The one thing that we wanted to also touch on in terms of overall health is hearing and vision. Those are really important sensory aspects, and if you're not hearing well, then you're not engaging in conversation well, and sometimes it can be really subtle. You don't even realize what you're missing, but maybe others in your life have expressed to you that you're not hearing them as well, or they're having to repeat things because you didn't hear them. So hearing health is huge in order to keep that brain engaged and being able to communicate successfully with others. And then I think most of this we've touched on, unless Gabrielle, you have something.
Well, I think Carol talked about what can you do, right? And that functional engagement, doing something that's meaningful to you is a key piece. Now there are obviously a lot of resources available now. There are apps on all kinds of companies that are trying to sell products that can help in some form, but research has shown that the meaningful engagement in an activity, such as engaging with others, is really important, but also learning something new that you're interested in, or reading is a powerful activity for the brain, because you're engaging not only your vision, but you also have to decode, you have to make meaning out of words, and you have to remember what you read. So really, if someone likes to read, that's an excellent activity to keep the brain active and meaningfully engaged. Obviously, outside of that is also physical activity, as we've already heard from Margaret and Carol, but those all in combination are really, really important, rather than, and I don't want to say that puzzles aren't great, they're great, because if you love puzzles or you like to do some of the apps, they are also wonderful, but also thinking about what can I do that I feel passionate about, and keeping that passion going to the extent possible, maybe modify it to some extent, but those are really important components to engaging neural pathways meaningfully, and actually take something away from it. Research also indicated that a lot of these brain activities or brain games, they don't generalize. So they don't have an impact on your ability to, for example, quickly think at the grocery store. You might be really fast on the brain game, but then when you have to do something in a setting where there's a lot of background noise or there's other stimulation that might distract you, then that does not translate. So again, they're good, but they should be in combination with something really meaningful and engage your brain in a functional way.
Beautiful. So wonderful. Yet another motivational speech from these two. I want to say just make one comment about such a profoundly important word that you used, meaningful activity. There's all kinds of activity out there, and sometimes we'll say to our loved one with maybe some brain change or maybe full-on dementia, you know, there's so many things to do in the community. Why don't you just go do them? Well, that's a little bit of a ridiculous question in my book, because how do I know where to choose what's there is to do? And many people are very big on pulling up activity calendars from like the library and here and other places on their computer screen, which is fine. But if there's some issues starting with a little bit of retention and retrieval of information, something hard, tangible, paper that can be referred to again and again and again is often the best way to go for folks that still have the capacity to read. And so, and the other part of that is it empowers the other. It quietly empowers them. It's something they can do. They can carry the paper around with them and they can look. And when they come to you and they say, did you say something about bingo? And then you can say, look on your sheet, it's right here. And then they can move through that. But we really look, my practice is based on, it's based on assets inventory. What can this person still do? And you guys are very much the same. And whatever they can still do, we capitalize on that. All of us in this room very well know our deficits. Well, Greg Kramer doesn't have any, but the rest of us know that we have deficits. And we don't need help having fingers pointed at us with that, but to really look at the assets and the capacity that remains and how we can strengthen and enlighten that with someone. And there's few things more important to me when somebody is working with PT, OT, speech and language pathology, or other disciplines, when I say, do you think you're doing better? And if the person says to me, well, the therapist says I am, do you feel you are doing better? Are you stronger? Is your balance a little bit straighter? Is your, and give examples so they have something to relate to. But when someone integrates that what they're doing is helpful to them, it makes them feel better. Again, the empowerment from a psychological, emotional standpoint, well, that's a win-win, right? Don't you love hearing that? Yeah. Because how they look on paper is okay, but how they really feel about what they're doing, that's the ticket. Did you want have a few comments, Jerry? Well, we've got Mr. Gentleman here having comments. Terrell Arnold, and I've already asked him if he's part of the Arnold family in the Valley, and he assured me he was not, but he's heard good things about him. Did I add that last part? No, and he's heard good things about him. Okay, here you go. Thanks.
anybody who ends with Arnold is good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so representing the Area Agency on Aging, my role is a bit different. And so maybe I'll just give a brief overview of the work that we do and talk about a couple of things that come up for me as we're having this discussion. So as the Area Agency on Aging, we receive funding through the Older Americans Act. And that comes to us through the state of Idaho, through the Idaho Commission on Aging. So we have a mandate to work with community partners, with our stakeholders, community members, seniors, elders, to help deliver services in our region. And so we work with the senior center like this one, who do a wonderful job here. We provide some funding, not all the funding, they always need more, for meals for here in the building, and then also for home delivered meals for those who can't come out, those who are homebound. And so that's a large part of some of the things we do, but we also do a lot of work with caregivers and providing support and services to them and to their loved ones. So we have in our office, we have staff dedicated Monday through Friday, normal business hours, answering the phone, taking calls from folks like yourselves and other people in the community to provide resources, to sign them up for services, to make referrals on to other organizations that can provide support if we don't have that service in-house. And so I've brought with me a bunch of bags over there. If you would like to take one, there's some swag in there, some resources, our contact information as well. So one of the things that I thought I would focus on tonight was the idea of around caregivers. More often than not, what we see happen is, if there is somebody who has cognitive decline, is starting to show signs of dementia or other ailing elements, physical or mental, there's a caregiver. And they work tirelessly in the background caring for their loved one, whether that's a spouse, a partner, or even a child, or a neighbor even sometimes. And we see, burnout happen, and that structure, that support system starts to break down. And so we have been doing quite a bit of work trying to get the word out more and more about some of the services that are available to caregivers. We have support groups for them. We have referrals to other organizations as well, because that can be such a taxing thing that happens as our loved one declines. And so, if we can help support them in any way, we want to make sure that we can. And so, if you know of anyone, or if you yourself are a caregiver and would like resources, please reach out to our office. And I know here at the Senior Center, they do a lot of work as well. And so they can be a valuable resource. They can reach out to us as well. One of the things that I've been looking at recently and kind of looking at the perplexity of it is, in 2023, the Surgeon General came out with a paper on the epidemic of loneliness. So we've talked a bit about loneliness here, and there were some stark realities and shocking realities in that report. One of the things that stands out to me is he said that being lonely is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's how damaging it is to our physical and mental health. And so one of the things that we are working towards is trying to incorporate, how do we support those that are lonely? It's an interesting problem, I think, because you could be surrounded by people but still be considered lonely. And so it's having a friend, having somebody that can be that asset, that resource for somebody else. And so we're talking about dementia, cognitive decline, You know, that's to me something that if we're getting out, you know, internally, we're trying to promote more and more for people to come to the senior centers, come get a meal, come enjoy the activities, come make a friend, because this is where it's not just about nutrition. I mean, that's so important to brain health, but so is that connection, that socialization, making friends, having friends. Particularly as we see, you know, our families move away, children grow up. You know, we may not be close to them, we may have moved, and so those are things that are important. One of the things that we've been working towards, getting back to dementia more, is as an organization becoming a certified trainer or trainers in a program called the Big Umbrella. And I don't have any of their pamphlets with me, but what the Big Umbrella is a resource and a training to help individuals and community members understand and learn more about what dementia is, what cognitive decline is. They call it the Big Umbrella because they're talking about all overarching types of dementia and cognitive decline. You know, Alzheimer's is one type. We talked about SMAC, other things that cause dementia. Sometimes it might not have anything to do with your brain. Your brain might be very healthy, but physically there might be something going on. You know, we talked about blood pressure and different things. And so, you know, as a community, as we get more educated in those things, we can start to understand what can I do for myself, but also what can I do for my loved one and maybe a community member as well. So, I'm not sure what else I should say at this point, just to say that, you know, as the Area Agency on Aging, you know, we want to be a resource. Please, you know, utilize us. And, you know, if we don't have the answer, my staff are wonderful at getting those answers and getting back to you.
That's beautiful. I love area agencies on aging. I cannot tell you my appreciation for AAAs. Wyoming does not have them because they're still working off of a 1988 set of rules about that. And I'm too tired at this point in my life. I can't fight that too. But area agencies on aging are very often one-stop shopping. And I get calls from people all over the country. My mom lives here, I live here. I don't know what's available in that community, and I say, what county do you live in? And then I help them look up the AAA there. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. The senior centers are fabulous. The senior centers end up doing a lot of work that, and I don't mean this to sound crass, but it falls under unfunded mandates. And so when you consider the Area Agency on Aging has more staffing, more funding, and more fingers out into the world to be able to help build a care plan for someone. So don't hesitate to call. You'll probably get somebody that says information and referral. And I always have called that information and access. Referral isn't enough. You need people, help people access. But the programs they have, I don't know how many now, 20?
Yeah.
About 20 programs, from weatherization, shore service, low income, energy assistance, on and on and on. So read the material in your bags if you have a minute to do so. Stacy, I would like you to please introduce board members that are in attendance.
Oh, board members that are in attendance. If you wouldn't mind standing if you are a board member in attendance.
Up and up.
Up and up.
Yay. Look at this. Wow. Impressive.
So we have Cindy Dender,
Okay.
board member. We have Lynn Browning is our chair of Senior Center. And Amy Bradley, our vice chair back there. Julie Stockdale. And did I miss anyone? Becky up there. Becky Edmiller is on the board as well.
minutes. I cannot believe we are so on time. This, wow. But I would like to take questions from the floor for any of us. And Stacy, do you mind taking the microphone to somebody so we can hear the question and then truck it back to us and we'll answer?
Anyone?
I'll start it off. When you are a family member and in a position of caretaking without the knowledge or the education to take on a family member in their health care or even in their elder years of an onset dementia, how do you assess what might be the limitations for them or the overstimulations that are maybe causing them to be upset and or depressed, and maybe they don't have dementia, maybe they do, like you said. How does one self-educate? I understand there's resources, but how do you do that when you might be on your own?
Sure. There's two things that I would recommend. One is Google it. One is go on the website of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. Under the resources and education and caregiver support, there are a myriad of free webinars. And I mean, we cover soup to nuts, quite honestly. And it's a phenomenal resource, free, 24/7. Anytime you want to, you can look at it. What I'm going to do is, we also did our new outline. I'm very affiliated with them. I do a lot of work with them. But I'm going to bring a stack of their schedule of activities, Zoom activities or webinars that are coming up. Another program is Wyoming Dementia Together, and that meets twice a month over Zoom for an hour and a half. And the membership is, the eligibility is that you are a care partner of someone with dementia or brain change. And that's your ticket in. And we have very strict confidentiality, but it's really, it's such an amazing group. We're coming into, I believe, our 4th year, and it's phenomenal. So I would recommend you go online and look at some information that's there. Another place that we sometimes forget about is the website for AARP, American Association of Retired Persons. It's fabulous. And they have all these worksheets that they've made over years and years and years. How do you know it's time to consider placement, right? How do you know if your loved one should have more help in the home? How do you know if your loved one is safe living alone? I mean, all these very, very practical, wonderful worksheets, so you can actually look at them and go through them. Any of us would be more than happy to talk with you about aging, about dementia, and our cards are up here, and we would be happy to do that. In my role as a geriatric social worker, I often have families call me and ask if I could come and do an assessment visit in the home, and I'm happy to do those. And I do a 20-minute initial consultation at no charge, because none of us are in it for the money, and because I need you to have a sense of who I am and if I'm the right match for you or not. And so a 20-minute initial consultation, phone generally, and that can work out really well. Again, with any of us, I think you can talk to any of us about getting more information that way. The other organization is Alzheimer's Foundation of America. Everybody knows about Alzheimer's Association, and they're great, they're wonderful. Alzheimer's Foundation of America has a 24-hour hotline with a real human that answers the phone. And in addition to being a real human, they're a real human that knows about dementia. What do you think? So there's none of this business on the phone trying to hear what you're supposed to push and leave a message. So it's fabulous. They're all worth looking into. Great, great resources.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone have a question up there?
I got a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Hey, this is about the danger of moving. It's happened to me several times that I've been skiing in a beautiful day in Teton Valley, for example, get back to the car, load up the skis and start driving. And I realized that I should not be driving because I am not driving very well. It's happened a few times. It also happened, I played in a band. And if we have a banner night and I don't drink anything, taking anything, same thing. What's going on?
Who's got the crystal ball?
We can take it, yeah.
Sure.
Cognition is fluid.
Microphone.
Cognition is fluid, right? It's not a, so if you're fatigued, then your cognitive skills will often decline, right? So you were just skiing, you are fatigued, and now all of a sudden your overall ability to plan and execute and carry out tasks has declined. So that's what you're feeling experiencing. Same thing with your band. It's an extraneous activity. You're having to work to play music, so now all of a sudden your ability to carry out tasks is declined.
Does it have to be a component of fun in this? It seems so to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the fatigue factor than anything else.
And ride share. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's great that you can recognize that and
The same thing happens in something emotional. So your brain requires energy to perform your physical, cognitive, and emotional needs. So if you have something that you need to do that's very physical, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna ski Teton Canyon out and back, well then later that evening, that's not the time to call your mother-in-law and have that conversation with her. Because you're not gonna have the emotional capacity to handle that. You're not gonna, and so just kind of looking at your day, and if you're noticing that you're having that finite amount of energy to focus on something, well, then look at your plan. You need to plan ahead. And say, if I need to have this difficult conversation, let me do that early. Or that's gonna be what I do today. Because I'm not gonna have the mental capacity to also do something really physically active and also learn, pick up a new skill or try to learn something new.
Great advice. Planning your day, and if mornings are your strong time, knock things out in the morning, man. And again, I applaud your insight too, Lars, because having knowledge that this is an issue allows you to kind of work around it here and there. Hi, thanks for coming.
Question in the back?
One of the best resources that I have found is a book called The 36-Hour Day. Whether you are a caregiver or whether you are somebody who feels like maybe you are on that road, the 36-Hour Day. Truly, it is a resource that you can flip through, you can go back to it. You may find that you are at one part here, it makes sense, and then 6 months later, there's another part over here that makes sense. I cannot recommend to you enough the 36-Hour Day.
The authors are Mace, M-A-C-E. I think he's a doctor, and Ravens, R-A-B-I-N-S. And I think Ravens is a social worker. I'm not sure, maybe I'm just making that up. No, I'm pretty sure, a social worker, that's what it takes. One of the cautions I have about a 36-hour day, I used to give it to people endlessly, but sometimes people want to read cover to the very back. And those last chapters can be a little startling, but when it comes to a behavior or a change in your loved one, you can look in that index and you can flip to the page about wandering, or you can flip to the page about resisting hygiene. So it's great for that. You're exactly right. Thank you for mentioning that.
We have one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate your excellent presentation. One thing you said made me a bit nervous. I was a medical professional for many years, and I've talked to quite a few people, and it's like, okay, have you had any a decrease in your short-term memory? Like, where did I leave my phone? And I'd just be curious, you know, how many people here have noticed a decrease in their short-term memory? And so when you said, for example, that a decrease in your memory is not a normal part of aging, that's what made me nervous. And I know that there's quite a difference between long-term memory and short-term memory.
Sure,
And-
yeah. So what I meant by that is, it is not part of normal aging. If that is consistent, repetitive. I heard a wonderful neurologist say one time, if you misplace your keys, not that much of a problem. If you forget what the keys are for, that's an issue. You see what I mean? It's kind of degrees in a way. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, one more question. Connie has a question.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap up with this.
Okay, I know you talked about you need more blood to the brain.
Yeah.
What about inversion tables? You know,
Oh, inversion tables, yeah.
brain?
I can't answer that question. I don't know the answer to that. But I would ask a primary care provider. They would know. Do PTs know about that?
An inversion table's it's not gonna increase the blood flow to the brain, because actually what happens when your blood pressure and your blood flow will go to the brain first. So it pumps out of your heart and it goes to the brain, because you need the brain oxygenated. When you have chronic low blood pressure, let's say, you're gonna have, and someone's in the hospital, you want that person to actually have their feet lower than their head, because when the blood goes to the feet, the blood pressure is gonna increase to pump it out of the feet and get up to the head. So that's how we increase blood pressure. If someone's blood pressure is really high, we want it to lower, we'll have their head lower because too much blood is there and we need to get it out. So if you actually are inverting and you're staying there, if you stay long enough, the opposite will occur. So your brain, there's only a certain number of blood that can be in the brain. So if we're sitting there, you can have too much and it will actually start pumping it out. And so it's kind of counterintuitive in that way. But in the end, it's more of you want the blood flow, you don't want just blood. So blood flow happens with exercise. And we're exercising, we're moving it, we're getting it there and out. And if we just do one of those, it's not gonna be as effective.
Sounded very much like physics to me.
I also wanted to mention that if you have questions about short-term memory and long-term memory in specifics, we are here for you. So we left our cards here, so we can give you brain, so help yourself with that. And we have, because we really want to emphasize hearing, we also have a handout of clinics in the region, in the area, audiologists who will test your hearing, because we don't have them here directly, so we want to make sure you have the resource. So if there's any hearing loss that's occurring or the hearing aids aren't working, just to really focus on getting that settled, because it's an important component to that healthy aging brain.
That's beautiful, yeah. And there's actually, I've read studies, I don't know, this has been years ago now, but there's a very strong correlation between hearing deficit and brain stagnation.
Yes.
So, kind of makes sense when you think of it.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to really emphasize that and
Perfect.
the resources that you need in order to find help that you need it.
Beautiful. We're gonna try to do the impossible. Need you to stay with me on this. Some of you that have had neck problems, you might wanna put on a little cervical collar. We're gonna go fast. How many of you would like to hear more information from our speech and language pathologists by show of hands? Excellent. Keep them up there because Stacy has to count.
Okay.
Great. How many would like to hear from an occupational therapist? Many people aren't real familiar with occupational therapists, but here is what they do. They come into a space and they see the world in a whole different way than anyone else. They observe flooring, the walking, is that safe? I was at a home visit one time with an OT, and as we walked from the front door to the kitchen where the client was, she whispered to me, 5 different floor surfaces. And I'm like, huh? But her feet knew that, you know? So the focus is always on safety. It's always safety first. And then adaptation, and it doesn't have to involve a drill. Adaptation, and then empowerment or maintaining as much independence as the person wants. And OTs are fabulous, and they're great with things that PT does too, with positioning and adaptive equipment and things that can make things easier and safer at home. How many would like to have our Terrell Arnold back?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do. We kind of, Stacy kind of got him in a stronghold and said, we want you at every one of these. Oh. And PT, physical therapy, always, yeah. Keep them up. Are you good?
Yep.
She's picking it up. Okay, great. Yes?
Carol, so how about the loneliness aspect? Is there a specialist who could come in and speak to us, whether it's
One of the things you can do to hear more about how loneliness has taken the stage in elder care and in dementia in particular is really truly to get online and talk and write in loneliness in the elderly. And you will learn of some programs that are happening around the country. It's not like one discipline addresses that, but it is so prevalent that the people that wrote that book I told you about, the DSM-5, are considering adding loneliness as a psychiatric diagnosis. Not to label somebody, but so it's taken seriously. It's so prevalent, and I think it adds a great deal to suicide rates among the elderly, and that's high.
And computers are complicated.
Computers are complicated, and we're
We
gonna
just
get
don't
some
sit down and say, Spock,
Yeah.
beat me up.
No, right, they're complicated. We'll get some bumper stickers made in your honor, Bob. Computers are complicated. You're right, dear one, but that's why we have our libraries that can assist with some computer stuff. And don't we have people here once a month that come and do
Tech time. Yes, tech time next Tuesday, actually.
tech time next Tuesday?
But that's
Yes.
telephones,
No,
cell phones.
They'll do anything.
It's all.
They'll do anything.
It's all equipment.
You talk to Stacy afterwards, she'll
Yeah.
get you lined up. Okay, I can,
Regarding the occupational therapist, I just want to note that we have an amazing occupational therapist. So if you're interested, Mal would love to come and talk to you about any adaptations you may need in your home or what occupational therapists do.
Can I get a show of hands
Yeah.
on that? In-home occupational therapist, and more information?
one
Okay.
of the things about in-home OT safety evals is if your doctor writes the order, that's how it happens, and then it's paid for by Medicare. So it's not an out-of-pocket expense. It's always, always a good thing to do, to have someone who knows of 5 different floor surfaces in 20 feet come in and look at your home and make recommendations for what you might want to consider to make things a little safer or easier. I talk a lot with my beloved elders about energy conservation. I mean physical energy conservation. And so OT will come in and see if there's some straight lines that you could make, or do, while you're in this end of the house, do this too, or whatever you need. So Deb, thank you for bringing up loneliness. It is huge. I've watched 2 conferences online in the last 6 months on loneliness. It's being considered a public health crisis. Yeah. No easy answers, but we're smart people. We can figure that out. Maybe we'll talk about that next time too. I can't thank you enough. It's so cool to look out and see all these wonderful faces with bodies. So I hope it's been meaningful for you. It's been fabulous for us. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you again to Carol and all of our panelists for coming and taking your time to do this talk. We are going to put a link on our YouTube channel of this tonight. You can share it with your family, friends, neighbors. Please involve others who couldn't come tonight. Let them know about it. We will also link it in our weekly roundup that we do put out there on our email. If you would like more information though, anytime call me or come in and see me and we'll get that link for you. We will do this again. We will work on a panel for April. So please keep your eyes peeled out for that. And thank you for commenting on some ideas for that. We will bring perhaps loneliness as a topic for them to talk about, and look for our therapists to see who we'll have for April. And based on some of this popularity, we want all of you back, but we will definitely...
We're not leaving.
We will change it up for you, and please give us input. And we really appreciate you coming tonight, and thank you for your questions and your attention.
Thank you to the senior